Traders Corner is proudly brought to you by IG, the specialists in CFD trading.
Welcome back and welcome to Traders Corner, and as always I'm joined by Garth McKenzie, who is of course the founder and editor of Traders Corner. Garth, welcome.
Hi Julieta.
Garth, let's start off with the gold shares, which you don't often dabble in, but clearly this was rather successful foray into the market because your last week's trade was Sibanye Gold, and that seems to have panned out quite nicely.
Yes, it has worked out well, and you're right. I mean, the gold shares typically, I'm not a big fan of most of them, but in amongst that sector, there are one or two that do look fairly okay, and this was one of them. Sibanye Gold, it's trending higher, it's got a nice pattern of higher highs and higher lows, and the 50-day moving average is pointing upwards, which I haven't got it on this chart this week, but that is always one of the key filters that I look for, is the direction of the 50-day moving average, and I'll always try and align my trades with the direction of that moving average. And it's a little just something that I find works quite well if you keep that in your arsenal of trading tools. Try and align your trades with the direction of the 50-day moving average. Anyway, be that as it may, Sibanye Gold was looking good, and it still is looking good. And what I'd identified last week on the show was that we had this falling wedge pattern in the stock. And you can see that whilst we had that consolidation, that falling wedge, the stochastic had become rather oversold at the top there. And that's a nice combination, oversold stochastic and one of these falling wedge patterns. These are what you refer to as continuation patterns within a trend. And invariably they will break out in the direction of the prevailing trend, which in this case was upwards. Now we did get an upside break, and what
it
I
happened
did
actually very quickly, didn't it?
It did happen very quickly, and it was quite fortuitous that it also came around at a time where we saw some numbers that were quite bullish from Sibanye Gold, showing that the stock is actually not very expensive on a valuation metric, and that helped to propel the stock higher as well. So we bought 4,500 CFDs for our portfolio at 12 Rand 66 on the breakout through the top of that falling wedge pattern. My stop loss was 11 Rand 87, which would have effectively meant a move underneath the bottom of that wedge pattern. Anyway, the stop loss was never violated, and it started to move higher quite quickly. And I really do like trades that work off the bat like this, because invariably those are trades that are going to work out quite well. If you have to wait 2-3 weeks for a trade to start working, often it indicates that the share or the trade that you've done is probably not right. So this one worked out very, very quickly, and we were able to bank a profit at 14 Rand 80. Which was close to my target of 15 Rand.
Yeah, well, pretty close, only 20 cents away. Did it ever get to your target
No.
after you'd banked it, or has it?
The highest that it got to was 14 Rand 87, so it didn't get as high as my target price. But I just felt that at that stage we had had quite a nice sharp move. We'd had the good news that had come out in terms of the earnings expectations, and that to me, I felt that was good enough of a catalyst to bank the profit and take what was a good trade and take the profit. So we made 9,360 Rand after costs on this one, which was around about 2.5 times more than what we had risked on this trade.
Yeah.
Our risk here was about 3,500 Rand. So it's a good risk to reward ratio of about 2.5 times to 1.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think you look for sort of 2.5 to 3 times and north of that. But as you say, pretty decent, not bad for a couple of days' work.
That's right.
And then, Garth, what about the top 40 future that you had, a trade in the top 40 future? Obviously, that actually has worked out quite well for you, but have you now cashed it in, or are you still long of it?
No, I have cashed it in now. So what we had here, if you have a look at that chart with all the lines that I've already plotted on it there, we had a nice steady upward channel over here. Now, I actually bought on that breakout through the downtrend that's identified there. I bought at 39,300 on that breakout, and I set a stop loss at 38,880, which was basically underneath the lowest point of that day's trade that I'd identified over there. And I was looking initially for a move up to the prior highs, which was 40,300. But then what I'd identified was that this index actually continued to trade upwards within this channel over here. And what I said last week on the show was that it had gone beyond our target price, but whilst it continued to trade within that upward channel, I would be happy to remain long, and I'd only cut the trade if it broke out to the bottom end of that channel. And that actually happened on the Wednesday after last week's show. We saw it breaking down underneath the bottom of that channel. So I got out then at a level of 40,580. And you can see since then the index has gone somewhat sideways. but today it's looking fairly strong again. Nonetheless, we got out, we made, nearly 1,300 points on this index, which is a pretty good move.
Yeah, it's
decent. So yeah, our profit after costs was 12,765 Rand. So again, a very nice risk to reward ratio here. Our risk was 4,200 Rand, and we made close to 13,000 Rand profit. So we got 3 times bigger reward here than what our risk was. And again, that's a great risk to reward ratio.
Yeah. So nice to have 2 strong trades in the bag.
Yeah,
gives
absolutely.
One a certain sense of confidence.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's nice, we're approaching the end of the year now. Obviously, we're going to be looking to donate the profits that we've made to charity in a couple of weeks' time. So it's nice to see our overall portfolio inching higher every week and making new highs as we approach the end of the year.
Yeah. So let's just not do anything silly between now and the end of the year.
Exactly, that's the key. We want to try and keep these profits as best we can.
Guys, just on the top 40, I know that you want to talk a little bit about how you can actually get to trade it, because there seemed to be a little bit of confusion from some of your, I suppose, viewers and people out there. I mean, as with regards to CFDs, what ultimately, what are the products you use? You generally trade in CFDs, but how would you get access to the top 40 futures?
Yes, well, that's it, Joe. I want to address this because I have been asked by a number of people, and there are quite a few different top 40 products available to trade. Now, what I've used in this case was a top 40 future. This is an index future. It's listed on the derivatives division of the JSE. It's a futures contract where every 1 point here represents 10 Rand per contract. Okay. But there are other products available as well. There are CFD products available, and IG Markets, who are our sponsor for this show, they offer a couple of top 40 products as well. They offer a top 40 forward product, which is basically the same as our top 40 future in all respects, except that it's a CFD as opposed to a future. And then they also offer a top 40 cash product, which mimics the value of the spot index itself. Now, you'll find that the futures price and the value of the top 40 index are usually different. The reason being that the future looks 3 months into the future, and there is invariably some time value and dividend adjustments that need to be taken into consideration to get to the fair value of what the futures contract should be. And then you have this top 40 cash product, which I was referring to, which mimics the spot index value. So I think it's quite important to differentiate between all of these different products. There's effectively 3 that I've spoken about here. We've got a top 40 future, we've got a top 40 forward CFD, which basically tracks the level of the future, and then we've got a top 40 cash CFD. And I think it's important for viewers and anyone who trades the top 40 to just understand the differences between all of these products.
I mean, are there cost differences? Not to labour this too lengthily, but are there cost implications for the different kind of products?
Well, when you're trading a futures contract, like I've done here, your futures provider will generally charge you anywhere between 10 Rand and 15 Rand per contract to trade. And then when you trade the CFD, there's usually just a bid-offer spread, which can be anywhere from sometimes 10 points to 30 points wide, depending. So there is a cost implication on all of them. I think the index future probably is the cheapest one to trade, but that's not to say that the others are excessively expensive either.
Okay, all right. So just to clarify that point, Garth, and then this week you want to have a look at Standard Bank, which is a share that we actually did trade and not quite successfully at that, but it looks like it's finally doing something interesting.
Yes, that's right. Well, Standard Bank is on my radar screen at the moment because it's finally breaking out. And you're right, we did actually trade the stock earlier in the year, and we were looking for a breakout at that stage, which never materialized. Now, if you have a look, this chart goes back 7 years. You can see that back in 2007, the price was 120 Rand. Then it reached that same level in early 2010. It's been bumping up against 120 Rand again through 2012 and again early this year. And it's bumped up against that resistance multiple times over the last 7 years without successfully breaking through. But now, finally, we've actually got a breakout through the top of that resistance level. And that is, to my mind, that's very, very bullish. Earlier in the year, you're right, we traded it over here where we had that period of consolidation, and we were looking for a breakout at that stage.
And then unfortunately it all just went south.
It never materialized, and our trade got stopped out that time. We lost a little bit of money. Now we've got a breakout. So the purpose of showing this long-term chart is to illustrate how long this resistance has been in place for. 7 years. It's a very, very long time. I've battled to find too many other charts on the JSE that look like this, that have got such long overhead resistance. Anyway, the fact that we're breaking out through that is now bullish. But I want to zoom in a bit on the more recent trading action, basically the trading action throughout 2013. And here you can see it. There's the overhead resistance area that we had at 120 Rand. And you can see there's also an uptrend now that goes back to the June lows. Now, we've had this breakout in the last couple of weeks, which is very, very bullish. To my mind, that from a longer term perspective is exceptionally exciting. And what you typically do get when these things happen is you get what's called a throwback to what was previously resistance. That level then becomes support on any pullback. So what I'd now look for in the weeks ahead is any consolidation or pullback from here. In the area around about 123, maybe we get it coming back towards 120 if we get a deeper pullback. But I think the point is, let's see some sort of consolidation action happening here, and any weakness back down into the lower 120s, I think you can buy, and that's what I'll certainly be watching in the week ahead, or the next couple of weeks anyway.
The caveat though, if that did go back below 120, would you then say, this isn't quite as bullish as I thought?
Yeah, it might then be considered a false breakout, in which case we'd probably then need to have some sort of a stop loss strategy in place. But you know, I'm not going to make the assumption that it's just going to be a false break. More likely is that this probably is a real breakout, and any pullback towards that level now will provide support, and I think that'll probably give you a nice medium-term buying opportunity. Yeah. And certainly if you look at the earnings growth profile of Standard Bank going forward for the next couple of years, it does definitely support this breakout from a fundamental perspective. You can see the earnings growing in double digits for the next couple of years. Now, to my mind, that's good enough evidence that we should see that fundamental story backing up the technical breakout that we've seen here.
Yeah, it would be nice to get a bit of excitement at Standard Bank. I think the only time it was particularly exciting was during the financial crisis, and then if you bought it at 67 Rand or thereabouts, you'd have done very, very well, but unfortunately not thereafter. So Garth, taking all this into account, what does the portfolio look like?
It looks good. We're at another new high this week. We've got just over 365,000 Rand in the portfolio, so that's up 46% for the year to date. These are the two trades that we've closed out this week. We've got our top 40 where we closed and made 12,765 Rand, and then our Sibanya we closed out and made a profit of 9,360 Rand. Remember also, operating in the background for us, we've got this option structure, which is at the moment capped at its maximum possible loss for us of 6,600 Rand. We can't lose more than that on this. But if the market were to pull back at some stage, that structure provides nice insurance for us.
But if the market carries on with its rally, then that 6,600 Rand is forfeited. So that would come off what we've made.
Well, we've already accounted for it in this figure.
Okay.
So it's already been taken care of.
Okay. Taking care of business, Garth, that's what we like to see. So pretty good performance. I mean, just before we get to the next courses that you have on the go, what is your feeling of the market at the moment? Do you think there is going to be anything of a significant pullback, which certainly a lot of people are hoping for, and a couple of guys I was chatting to yesterday seemed quite nervous about the market where it is? Yeah,
look, nervous, I suppose rightfully so, from the perspective that our valuation is very stretched on the JSE at the moment. I mean, we're sitting at around about 20% above our long-term PE multiple on the JSE. So from that perspective, I suppose there's some justification in being cautious. But, you know, the thing is that the market can continue to run. It can continue to get more expensive before the pullback comes. So as a short-term trader, I'm likely to continue looking at the momentum and try and capture that momentum. If it's up, I'm going to be looking for trades on the long side. Okay. The trend is your friend until it bends. All right. So Garth, to end off with, your next courses, and you've got one, I think, in a couple of days, don't you? Well, yeah, I've got a face-to-face session coming up, and this is a new initiative that I'm doing. The first one is now on the 31st of October. That's this week, Thursday. It's from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. You need to please go to my website, traderscorner.co.za, and register and book. It is 200 Rand to attend this. We will be live tweeting from the event, and we'll be using the hashtag TC session. Okay. So anyone that's not able to attend the event can actually get involved via Twitter, and we will be taking questions from the Twitterverse and answering them via Twitter as well. So if you can't attend the event and be there in person, you can also get involved via Twitter. Okay, use social media so-and-so. Garth, we have to leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us as always, and good luck for the Thursday. That's Garth McKenzie, founder and editor of Traders Corner.
Traders Corner is proudly brought to you by IG, the specialists in CFD trading.